Welcome back to another episode of That's Business. Today's guest is a career and leadership coach who helps ambitious professionals navigate meaningful career transitions and build work lives aligned with their values. Tathiana is a former McKinsey consultant and INSEAD MBA. She has over a decade of experience in strategy and leadership roles across tech and consulting, working across Latin America, the Middle East, Europe, and the United States. Today, she is an ICF-certified coach who supports professionals, particularly women and consultants, who are questioning their next career move and want to choose their path consciously rather than by default. Tathiana, we have so much to talk about and vibe on today. So I'm guessing you probably didn't grow up and say, I wanted to be a career coach or career consultant. What did you want to be when you grew up?
This is a great question. So I think I kind of always wanted to be an engineer. This is my undergrad. I have background in engineering. I was kind of steered to it because I was always very good in math. I come from Brazil. And in Brazil, basically, you can only be an engineer, a lawyer, or a doctor. You don't have many other options,
Yes.
So in order to make money, right? Even though, nowadays you don't make money, doesn't matter. But then because I was very good in math and stuff, everyone was around me saying, yes, you're going to be an engineer, you're going to be an engineer. So I kind of I went with it and I was like, yes, I'm going to be an engineer. I always like to play Legos and stuff. So I thought I would build crazy things.
Yes.
I don't know if anyone out there is studying engineering, but this is not what engineering is about. It's not really playing Legos and only building crazy stuff. It's basically corporate jobs. So then I realized that, okay, this is not exactly what I was expecting.
Because school system's different than here in the States. So when do you decide those three paths? Is it kind of when you're younger, or when do you have to decide what path you're going to go at what age?
Now, yes, you decide when you do your tests for university, So now in Brazil, there is a unified test. Not exactly like the SATs in US. It's I don't know, it's a very big and long and detailed test. Now it's a unified one, but back then it was each big university had their own test and you had to choose the career path you want, because then, for example, for engineering, you have more focus in mathematics, physics, and chemistry. While if you want to do journalism, you're going to have more focus in Portuguese and English and history, for example, So you have to choose when you are 16, 17 years old, so in order to prepare for the tests. And I don't come from a very rich family, let's say this.
Sure.
We were medium class. So of course my parents always had this concern, that me and my brothers, we would have nice careers and we would be able to make money and be independent and not struggle and all of those things. So that's why I was kind of always steered to engineering. And it was fun studying and everything. But then Brazil also is not a country that builds technology from scratch, right? So I did chemical engineering, and then my job would be either working, in a factory and just managing a factory, which is not something that's really you want to do, especially oil refinery or something like this.
Oh, yeah.
So it was either this or you're going to have a corporate job and work with projects and stuff. So this is what I started to do, I was working as an engineer with projects and stuff, but on the corporate side. But it was incredible, hierarchical, it's just
Right.
I could not talk with the boss of my boss. It's it was all these things super constrained. Plus, I was not making the money that I was supposed to make. The people said, yes, you're going to be rich as an engineer. And I was I am not rich. I'm not rich. I'm not very happy with what I'm doing. I decided to yes, I'm young. This is not what I want to do. I'm going to find something else. And then I found consulting, which in the beginning, it was very fun, because it gave me a lot of learning and a very dynamic environment, working projects with different people, very smart people. You travel a lot. You sit, for me, in my first job, I could not talk to the boss of my boss. And then as a consultant, I would just present to the CEO of one of the biggest telecom companies in Brazil. So it's in 6 months, my life shifted completely. So I was like, yeah, okay, this is like way cooler. At least I'm learning. I'm doing like a lot of things. So
That's great. And a lot of people I see, they don't understand what consulting is. I feel like nowadays it's like, oh, everyone slaps on the title consultant, but it can mean a lot of things. So, to you, in the basic form, what does consulting look like, or what does it mean to you?
look, I went through this because I had to explain to my mom, to my grandma, like what I was doing.
Oh, I'm sure. I didn't even think of that. Right. They're like, what are you doing? You're crazy.
And my mom was like, why do you work 16 hours a day? Like, why are you never home for dinner? Like, what are you doing? That is that. So, no, but look, basically consulting, I mean, there are different types of consulting first place. There is IT consulting, HR consulting, whatever. I was in management consulting, which is even more broad and meaningless than IT consult. Like IT consulting, okay, it's IT. But anyway, management consulting, it's basically, I mean, we work directly with like senior leadership of companies, like C levels and everything, to solve problems that either they don't have time to do, like they don't have time to solve themselves because, they need to run the company, or they don't have the people to do it, and then they will not hire to do this specific project for 3 months and then fire people. We know that everywhere in the world there are labor laws and all of those things, so they cannot do it.
Yes.
Or they don't know at all how to do it. So I'll give you an example. I worked a lot in corporate finance projects where, let's say, one company wants to buy another company. For this, they need like someone that will analyze like every tiny thing from the company they will buy, the target, right? So they need to make sure that their finances are in place, the management structure is in place, whatever they say they do, they're actually doing, and that there is a reason to buy that company, right? Like if you're buying it, it's because you believe you're gonna make money from it. So it's really like to prove that, okay, how much money I will make, this makes sense or not. And oftentimes it's like a very specific capability that not necessarily someone inside the company like knows how to do, right? So then they hire a consulting firm that does this like every month, and then people know exactly what to look at, like what to do, and then they charge like big money because, of course, I mean, it's a specific expertise.
Right.
And then you give this result to the client, so it's basically, I mean, there are different projects and topics and situations that management consulting can cover, but it's basically this, right? And then the structure of consulting is that when you enter as a junior person, I mean, you work in the team, everyone works in a team for a specific project, and you work as a junior consultant, you have a manager, and you work close to the partners. The partners are like the ones that are there for 10 years and they really know what they're doing in that specific topic, right? So if it's a corporate finance project, there will be a corporate finance partner, right? And the way they structure consulting is that you're gonna learn by this hands-on experience. So everyone started as a junior consultant and you do so many projects that you start to build your expertise, ideally one day to become a partner in one specific topic, right? Which makes the junior consultants, I mean, they're very lucky because they are exposed to super senior people, because, I mean, if the partner is having a meeting with the CEO and you are on that team, they need someone to take the notes, right? They need someone to
Yes.
do,
Need a lot.
like, do the Excel, to do the PowerPoint, and to do those things, which is normally like what people make fun of consultants, is that, yes, you want to slides and stuff. But you learn a lot from the things that you write on the slides, right? It's not, if it's only from your head, from what you learn in university, you will not write anything. So,
Right. Oh my gosh.
so, so it's a crazy learning curve, that really, really can change completely your perspective about your career, your knowledge, like the way you position yourself. It's really like a boot camp, of like companies and corporate world. It's very worth it, I don't regret it at all. But it requires a lot, like a lot of hours, a lot of energy, a lot of travel. So it's not forever. At least for me, it could not be forever.
So we get burnt out, I'm assuming, from consulting, and then you decide, hey, I'm going to help people with career changes. So, how did that come to fruition of you deciding you want to help people with like career transitions and the beautiful work you're doing now?
It was a big leap. And when we say like this, it seems that it was like something fast and easy. It was not not
Yes.
that fast at all. So the thing is that I was a consultant. I'll just like give a brief context on
Yes.
everything. But I was a consultant. Then a lot of junior consultants, like after a while, if you have a good performance, you are sponsored to do an MBA. So I went to do my MBA at INSEAD in France. And when I was there, I started to realize that my colleagues, they had like better lives than me, because I only worked basically. Like I only worked every day, weekends. If I was not working, I was sleeping. So when I was there on the MBA, I started to hear people saying, "No, I did this, I traveled to this place, I did this, I did that." And people that normally were not in consulting. So I was like, there are like cool jobs. There are like cool jobs, interesting jobs that pay well, but people, they have lives that I don't have life, right? And this way, I think, was the first moment that there was something inside me saying like, maybe, that this life that I'm living, it's not exactly, what I wanted to have. And then, of course, I think I really believe like in destiny and universe and all
Yes,
those
me too.
like hippie things. But I mean, the universe then put my husband on my way during the MBA. We started to date. We were very happy, very in love. And on that moment, I also realized that my job was not allowing me, to have like the relationship I wanted. Because after the MBA, when we finished the MBA, my husband was also in consulting in another firm, a competitor. And it was COVID times, after, like, not exactly in the peak of COVID, but like that after COVID moment where a lot of people were still working remotely. So we were both working remotely from the same apartment, and we could barely see each other. We could only like meet in bed at 3 a.m.,
Right.
It's like,
oh my gosh.
then I was like, no, I am someone very, like my friends, they say like, I fix things, I like when I
You're a
feel
fixer.
something. Yes, like when I feel something I want to fix and I want to do. So I was like, the problem is consulting. The problem is McKinsey, It's McKinsey that is not letting me have the life I want to have. So I left for a corporate. I went like to tech scale ups, and I was working with strategy because I always did the strategy in my life. So it was kind of like the obvious way out. But I was working with ex consultants in scale ups that were like growing very fast. So the pressure was still there. There's a lot of ex consultants that keep behaving the same way. So I was still working like crazy hours, had a lot of pressure, but somehow I was managing it. But then I had my daughter, and then I could not manage anymore. And be fully honest, for so long now, my daughter is almost 3. So just now, I think that I could not manage because the system was not really helping me to manage. But for so long, I thought like I had a problem. I am the weak one that cannot manage a career and a family. But I mean, for me, I have a very short maternity leave, similar to US. I only had 3 months, right? So it was, my daughter was like crazy small. I was living in Dubai, and we have like zero family, zero support, zero anything. We had the nanny, but that's it. So for me, like, I felt very uh, lonely, and I was like, I am responsible for this tiny human being, and I will let her with someone that, like, okay, I mean, it's a nanny. I hired her. I think she's good, but I don't really know her.
Right.
Like,
Scary. Yes.
yes, I was breastfeeding, and I decided that I would not stop breastfeeding because of work. So I would go to work and pump milk from the bathroom because there are no like place dedicated for it. And in between meetings, and sometimes I had so many meetings, I would feel like my breast like full, full, full. It hurts a lot. Like you
It hurts, right?
and you start to be stressed because it can leak. And I was exhausted because my daughter, she's not really a good sleeper until today. Now I also accepted that this is the way she is, but back then I didn't know. I thought the problem was me. Like, I don't know how to do this baby sleep. But I was all the time very exhausted, taking like tons of coffee, which was not good for my daughter that was breastfeeding, by the way. But I mean, choices,
okay.
right? So we were like,
yes.
I was
You're
like,
surviving.
No, my daughter, her name is Maria. So I was like, Maria, I mean, you don't sleep. You're going to drink coffee for the milk. Choices.
Choices, exactly.
like, you know. So anyway, I was exhausted, and I was receiving a lot of pressure to perform, like, there was this conversation with like a senior leadership that is like, you are doing your job very well, but if I were you, I would expect to be promoted in the next 6 months. And for you to be promoted in the next 6 months, you need to do the extra mile. And you are not doing the extra mile, you're only doing your work. And I was like, first, if I am doing my work, thank you. Because my daughter, it's 6 months, she doesn't sleep. So if I'm doing my work, it's already
That's
good
a
news.
win, right?
Because like for me, the way I was feeling is like not even my work I was doing, because like I was fried, my brain was destroyed. And then I was like, I don't want to do the extra mile, because if for me I am struggling to do my job, what does it mean to go the extra mile? It means more hours.
And then is that going to be your norm when you get promoted, of you're going to just have to be at that
Yeah.
status, and that's too much, right?
Look, I understand, like, okay, you have to do the extra mile to be promoted. But when they told me this, I was just like 1 year in the role. So like, why I have to be promoted in 6 months? Why I cannot stay, like, leave me alone, you know? And I was very clear. I was like, look, I don't want to be promoted. I want to do my job and settle in this new situation of my life, you know? And once things get a bit better, because I hope they will, then I will be able to do an extra mile. But it's not now. Like, it's not now that I'm breastfeeding. I mean, do you know how much energy it takes to breastfeed a child? Like, and then, long story short, after this conversation, things completely went downhill, and I was pushed out of the company.
How long after? I mean, so when did you have, from the conversation of you need to do the extra step to go the extra mile to get promoted, to getting pushed out? How long was that?
I got it 3 months after the conversation. I was informed that it was better for me to leave, because it was like, I understand you don't agree with the way the company is operating, but the company is operating this way. So it might be better for you, to find something else. And then I had 3 more months to leave. Like they let me, it was like a big notice
like the severance?
Yes,
Oh,
it was
okay.
like it was kind of like a severance. I was half working, but I had this like extra 3 months. But in parallel, like when all of those conversations happened, and I mean the way I was feeling, I started to realize that, because I'm a fixer, so I was like, I have to fix this problem. I was getting anxious because I was like, okay, I built my whole career in management consulting, corporate. I did the fancy MBA. I am relatively senior. People want me to get promoted, and I don't want. So I was like, what is my future? Like, if I continue this path, is anything gonna change? It will only be more. Like, people will only expect more from me. And okay, fine, my daughter will grow up eventually, but I don't want her to grow up like without me being present. And I might want to have other kids. So I started to think like, okay, actually, the whole problem that I thought it was McKinsey, it's not exactly McKinsey, not exactly consulting. It's like, okay, I have a problem with this corporate career that I built for myself. Like,
corporation's problem, right?
It's a corporate problem, but also, I mean, it's the path that I went like on, because I wanted to have a good salary, because I wanted to have like good brands. I did the MBA. Like, it's not like by chance also, I put a lot of effort on this career, but then I started to feel that now, not now, but like back then, I was like 30 something years old. I have a family, like priorities change, and like, I don't really care about fancy titles or companies or anything. Like, I don't want to have those things and not have like the family situation that I want, like, So I was starting thinking about, and I was working with a coach that is amazing. And I was like, okay, this is not it. This is not what I want. I need to find what I will do. And I started to realize that what really matters for me, way more than doing slides and like meetings, to discuss meetings, to have follow-up meetings, it was to help people. And I mean, at some point it was like, okay, I will not do like a psychology degree or something like this. Like, we don't have a lot of time. So I started to explore a few options. Then I decided to start a coaching training to test this option, to see if I would if I would relate with it. And I love it. I felt like, yes, that's it, and I was always someone that used coaches a lot and they helped me a lot. So I knew like in my life that it's true and it's helpful. Then I started to do pro bono coaching and all of this. And then when the situation came, like the tipping point of everything with my corporate career, I said, it's now or never, My daughter was still small, so I still needed the flexibility. And I was like, yeah, it's now or never. I started to invest on it. I kept on doing trainings, like I was doing my training Saturday night from like 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. because it is US time and I was in Dubai.
Oh, okay. I didn't even think of that.
And because I wanted to do like this very good training. And it was every Saturday for 1 year, every Saturday night. And, everyone that has a baby know that this is like bedtime. And my daughter was like screaming outside with my husband, because I don't know, the kids, they feel like, they feel like when you need them to be calm and sleep,
oh, never.
They will not, never, right? So every other day she would be fine just sleeping with her dad, but every day that I needed, she didn't want, And it was now it's a funny thing, but it was a bit stressful for all of us. But anyway, we did this. I took the leap, opened my business, started taking clients. And, I started to study a lot about the business side of being a coach. We need to make money, right? And everyone says, yes, you need to have your own niche. You have to decide like what is the audience that you want to target, the people that you want to work with, so you can communicate with them. And then for me, it was obvious. Like I want to help people like me, women, young moms, ex-consultants, like people that invested a lot on their careers and now they're not happy, and they just want to find something that is more meaningful. And it doesn't mean it needs to be entrepreneurship like it was for me. It doesn't mean like everyone needs to hate consulting. I don't hate consulting. But I do feel that in our generation, we studied a lot and we started like to hustle and we never reflected. Is this really what I want to do? It's, and this is really what I want to do for the next 30 years, 35. I don't know how many years we have to work to
Too many?
retire.
Yes.
So like people don't reflect and you start, you go and you get promoted and you start to make money and you have like your commitments. But then you have your family and most of my clients, they are people like me, like you in our age. They're struggling with those things, It's like, okay, like what can I do right now? Like a lot of people feel they're stuck forever in this path. And I really don't believe this, I think it's hard. I'll not lie. It's hard. Take this decision and take this leap. But it's worth it, like when you do something that you are very happy, things are lighter, you don't have like, you're not dreading the Monday, and you're like, oh my God, another meeting. Oh my God, my boss is gonna annoy me, so you don't have this anymore. And honestly, it feels great.
It does. With your coaching business, where do you help women and consultants? What kind of problems do you help them solve or what they're typically struggling with?
I would say that with consultants, the biggest problem is that they want to leave because, they are tired, the lifestyle, whatever, they want to leave, but they don't know what they want to do or what they can do because consultants are generalists. They work with different types of companies, industries, projects, whatever. So it's hard for them to then, like when they go to the job market, to position themselves as like, okay, I am this guy that help companies grow, or I am this transformation woman. They don't know where they are and what they want even, it's like they just say, no, I want to leave,
I want to get out now.
I want to get out. Exactly. And it's easy to get out, but you might get out something that is not what you really want. So then you'll not be happy. Right. So I really help them to first identify what makes sense for them based on, of course, their experience inside consulting, but also what they want, what they like. I like to work more with governments, or I like to work more with oil and gas. fine, so we started like to find this direction. And then once we have like a clear focus, a clear target, we just like work on everything towards it, on their CV, on like on the personal pitch, how they present themselves, how they're going to explain their experience and all of this. This is like one type of problem. And there is a second type of problem, which helps a lot. Like it happens a lot with new moms or women in general. Doesn't need to be mom. Is a bit this almost like an identity crisis. It's like I did all of this until now, but I'm not happy, and I don't know what I'll do, and I don't know what I want to do, and I don't know what I can do, and it's like it's so many things, which of course also falls in a career transition in many cases, but in some cases it's just really like finding who they are after like having a kid, or who they are now that they have a family and they have a career, and like what they want to prioritize. It's really like a reflection process. But I always tell like my clients, like when was the last time you took 1 hour to just think about your life or your career? We don't do this, and even if you do by miracle, you get stuck in your head. You're just like thinking the same things and running. And this is for me like one of the biggest benefits of having a coach, is that someone that is really paying attention to what you say without any judgment. Like, I don't care if you stay in consulting or if you leave. It's really like, because a lot of people, they tell me, I talk to my husband and I talk to my mom, but they try to convince me like either way. And I understand that, because my mom, she was 100% against me ever leaving McKinsey. She loved, like she used to tell everyone in the supermarket. So for me, like, I don't care, So I listen and I don't judge, and I really pay attention, me or any coach, we pay attention to the way you say things, to the feeling that you show when you are saying something. And we eventually challenge, is like, is this true? Is this a fact? Or is it just a belief that you have about yourself or about the world? Or, or it's just like, is this really something you can control or you cannot control? So it helps like people, I think, to change their perspective about a lot of things. Recently I had a client, a consultant. She came and say, I want to leave. I hate it. I cannot anymore. And then after like many sessions, she was thinking like what she could do. She went to talk to people, and then she came back and she said like, I really like the job of like consulting. I just don't like the impact that this has on my life. And I was like, okay, but what is your responsibility on that? I know the consulting firms are not saints, but nobody will take your hand and say like, hey, Angela, work a bit less. Go to the gym. Go have dinner with your husband. Like, people never try to put like any boundaries, and then they just put the blame on like, I cannot do anything. But have you tried? And then wait for someone to yell at you and say, no, you cannot have dinner with your husband on a Friday night. And then she realized that there was a lot on her behavior, and she was a manager. So that even like she was making her team do things that the way that it was not healthy even for her. But it's just, the operational behavior that she learned, and then she thought that this would be the right one to have, right? So long story short, after a while, she realized, like, I want to stay, but I want to try to behave in a different way. And she's trying, and she's happy. So, so I think this is the benefit, I think, of coaching in general, is just stopping and really reflecting about your career or your life or a situation that it's not exactly the way you want, and finding like what you can do to change, and if you don't have the courage to do or the motivation to do, what is blocking you?
It's so true. And it's an outside perspective that's not biased. We have our loved ones, our partners, wives, husbands, family members who are, oh, you should just quit. You're miserable. Or, oh, why would you quit that job? You're at McKinsey. It's one of the best companies in the world. You're crazy. Right. But it's so interesting. And I love coaching for that reason, or just that set of clarity, and especially helping young moms or people with identity crisis, because nobody talks about that. You're never trained on that growing up. It's just like, you'll figure it out. You go to school, you get the job, and all is sunshines and rainbows and everything works out. But it's not. No. But, oh, such a great point. Now, as we wrap this up, what advice do you have for listeners?
Wow. What advice? I would say don't ignore that little voice inside you that is telling you, maybe this is not good, maybe this is not right, maybe you should be in a better place, in a different place. And can be for anything, can be in a relationship. I also had this experience. We can talk about this in another podcast, but anyway, it can be in a relationship that you're feeling,
There's a reason you're feeling that way. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. There is a reason. And like our body, is trying to help us. And sometimes like we have so many fears, and or constraints in our lives, like we have to pay the bills and whatever. And sometimes it's hard to take a decision. And I'm not saying, yes, go crazy, live. It's not like this, but I think listen to the voice, try to understand what the voice is trying to tell you. And if the voice is trying to tell you do any type of transition, prepare for it. So if you want to do, for example, a career transition, start saving more money. Take a course to learn like a new skill that you might need. If you wanna, I don't know, if you feel that you are in the wrong course, okay, go like research what you would like to do, like what are the possibilities, I do believe that when we start taking tiny steps, also like the universe, the hippie side again, sorry, but like really the universe conspires.
Totally agree.
But it's also proving, that your like brain starts to focus on the things that will help you to achieve that goal. So if you start like, even if it's a tiny, like one tiny thing, do a list or, do a research on Google, on TikTok if you want, like whatever. But it's slowly you start having movement, and you're gonna get there.
Oh, you're amazing. Tathiana, this was such a beautiful story, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And for those of you listening, if you want to check her out and work with her too, head to the show notes and tune in again next week for another episode of That's Business.